which is that in Doctor Strangelove, Major Kong says, "Fire the explosive bolts." And in 2001, the entry hatch sign reads, "Caution, explosive bolts."
Oh.
Which is his own little...
I never saw that. You know something?
Look at Sean teaching you about movies.
Hey, guys, I'm just saying that I'm having such a good time talking to both of you about this movie, but that one insight just makes this day.
That's great. That's great.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to Ajay Discusses Movies, a show in which I discuss movies, both old and new. Today, we're discussing a new film that just dropped in the theaters this past weekend, and that movie is titled Disclosure Day, directed by Steven Spielberg. This is Steven Spielberg's 36th/37th film. He is responsible for making several films that are a testament to American culture. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, E.T., Jurassic Park, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Schindler's List, Munich, War of the Worlds, many films, many thoughts and messages that can be found in this film were found in films prior. However, Disclosure Day stars Emily Blunt as Margaret Fairchild and Josh O'Connor as Daniel Kellner, as they gain new abilities after discovering extraterrestrial life, as they try to avoid a government agency, led by Noah Scanlon, played by Colin Firth, to reveal the truth of extraterrestrial life and the possible mayhem, chaos, and controversy that could ensue from there. So I did watch this on Friday night with a friend of mine, and I watched this in a packed theater. Pretty packed, honestly. The movie theaters have been packed for well over a month now, and that is thanks and due to Obsession, Backrooms, and the litany of other films that have garnered the interest of people such as The Sheep Detective.
What are you saying?
Our shepherd has been murdered, and we shall solve the crime.
And this was no exception. There was an audience, there was a crowd for this movie. But I did not let the crowd change my overall thoughts on this movie. So, general thoughts on this movie, I thought it was fine. I didn't love it. Wouldn't go as far as to say that I hated it. It was a fine movie that had admirable points and parts within it. Before I get into the negatives, because I did have some negatives with the movie, let's start off with the positives. We mentioned Emily Blunt and Josh O'Connor in this movie. I felt as if they gave some admirable performances in their roles. Margaret Fairchild is an individual that is able to gain powers such as being able to talk in a language that the aliens are well known for talking in, as well as being able to connect with people that she's never met before. And Emily Blunt's portrayal in this movie was great. I felt with what she was given, she knocked it out of the park. There were moments in which you are really feeling for her character, and there are moments in which you are actually side-eyeing her character, and I felt as if her type of humor, her quirked up humor in this movie, served her character well. And I thought she did pretty well in this movie. I also enjoyed Josh O'Connor's Daniel Kellner. Yes, he is of the Challengers fame, and many people who know Josh O'Connor are familiar with what he's done with that movie. But I felt as if with this movie, Spielberg was able to truly inhabit and honor a type of character that Josh O'Connor's character has been able to play in Spielberg films last, right? In a lot of ways, he kind of reminded me of Tom Cruise in War of the Worlds. You kind of get the gist. He did pretty well in this film as well. But to me, the standouts were easily Emily Blunt. Colin Firth, I thought, did really well in the antagonist role. After a while, and this may be a little bit of a negative, but after a while, you sort of questioned why he was still in the movie because his role was quite diminished. But I did feel as if Colin Firth did well, given with what he was given, as well as Colman Domingo. I thought Colman Domingo was very likable in this movie, and him playing Hugo, I thought added fresh, new perspective on the movie, and it really offered something truly different. So yeah, I thought the performances were all good. The score is amazing. It's done by John Williams. I don't know if the Academy has started voting yet on films to be nominated for 2027, but if they were, this would easily be a frontrunner and a contender for that award for Best Score. John Williams knocks it out of the park. He's amazing. He's been doing it for so long now. His companionship with Spielberg is well documented, and this is essentially a testament to what we've already known, which is that he's one of the best composers of all time, and this is proof of it. The action set pieces, to me, were easily the standout parts in the movie. There are 2 action set pieces in this movie. One is in this cabin. The other involves a train. I'm not going to spoil it because obviously we have yet to enter into spoilers, but those 2 particular set pieces really made the film for me. And the sound design was just amazing and immersive with those 2 set pieces. And again, we'll get into this with negatives, but I really wanted the film to really appreciate the set pieces, because we know Spielberg is a master of that, not just with War of the Worlds, but also with the Indiana Jones films as well. He is a master and is a technician when it comes to delivering action set pieces that is palatable for a general movie-going audience. And I wanted the film to appreciate that. Now, that's not to say that the movie suffered because of a lack of it, but I wanted the movie to go even further on it, not just double down on it, but triple down, quadruple down on it, so that it could be as intense as I wanted the film to be. So the action set pieces were definitely easily the best parts in the entire film. Again, I'm not spoiling anything, but there is that train sequence by the second part of it where you are immediately glued to the screen. And the best part about that scene, about that set piece, as well as the first one, is that there was a lack of soundtrack involved. It was just completely mute, and as a result, you felt zoned in. I was watching this with a friend of mine, and the entire time I was looking over at him, and he had his eyes glued to the screen, which is what you want in a movie. So yes, I felt as if the action set pieces were amazing. And the camera and visual tricks by Spielberg in this movie were also pretty well done. In fact, it reminded me of shades of Sam Raimi with what his camera and visual tricks would be. Now, obviously, I don't think it was as well done, but in terms of offering something new and exciting, I felt like that was revelatory. And in fact, it really goes to show you that even though Spielberg is a director that makes movies for a general movie-going audience, he understands the beauty that comes with telling a well-crafted story through the use of camera and visual tricks to accompany it. So I thought that was great. And the offbeat humor was also pretty funny. Obviously, it didn't really get the response that it deserved in the theater when I watched it, but there are times where you watch it and the dialogue is funny. There are moments in which Margaret Fairchild is talking to her boyfriend, and it's hilarious. There is an opening scene in which you see Margaret Fairchild making toast with butter, and you think to yourself, that's a huge stick of butter to put. Is this purposefully done? And you realize, oh, well, Spielberg has been in the game for over 40, 50 years now at this point. Of course, everything is purposeful. And I thought that was a very oddly funny moment in the movie. It reminded me of M. Night Shyamalan.
What time is it now? Isn't it getting late?
Because, and get your bingo cards ready because we will mention him. This movie, Disclosure Day, reminded me of Signs. It felt like it was straight from a 2000s movie, which for better or for worse will show why it's not going to do well in the box office. But if this film were to come out 20 years ago, back in 2006, 2007, this would easily clear 700, 800 million in the worldwide box office numbers. Easily. I feel like now we are a little bit more cynical, where extraterrestrial life isn't really that scary to us. The idea that there are aliens out there isn't really that scary. Now, granted, maybe Spielberg was using this as a metaphor for, I don't know, maybe immigration or whatnot. As you know, obviously E.T., as we know, was a movie that was based on the metaphor that these aliens represented immigration at a time where America was very scared of such life.
Do you have a favorite Steven Spielberg movie?
Yeah, Colman, E.T., man. He was the first brown guy I ever saw on TV, bro. Big up E.T. They sent him home, though.
He didn't.
They sent him
E.T.'s about immigration.
Yeah. He didn't really want to go.
And also he's always trying to find...
Fuck off. Get out, you
Yeah, they got him out of the country, and also he's trying to get those phone cards. Phone home.
He was just trying to phone.
He's trying to get a long distance call
He
back
was
to
just
India.
trying to phone.
Phone home.
E.T. phone home.
Exactly. Yeah, respect to him.
Big
He's
up
really,
E.T.,
we wouldn't
man.
be here without
Yeah,
him.
man, come on.
Yeah.
It's crazy how things have yet to really be changed since then. But again, I feel as if this movie was shown 20 years ago, it would have easily cleared 800, 900 million. But things have changed since then, and I feel as if extraterrestrial life isn't really a horrifying thing as it once was. So yes, this movie reminded me a lot of Signs, not just in terms of documenting extraterrestrial life and the fear of it, but also when it came to revealing that there was such things as extraterrestrial life. There is a moment in which Daniel Kellner's girlfriend is watching the aliens for the first time on her computer. And it reminded me of when Joaquin Phoenix's character in Signs first saw the aliens in Brazil, or wherever that footage was taken. It was basically a one-to-one shot. So, yes, not just in terms of dealing with extraterrestrial life, but also dealing with faith. I felt as if both films played off of those two messages pretty well. Obviously, with Signs, it talks about how Mel Gibson's character is struggling with his faith because his wife died in a car accident. Similar to this film, Daniel Kellner's girlfriend is a former priest who loses her way with the church because she loses her faith within her religion. And she is basically told by the nuns that she didn't lose her faith in religion, she lost her faith in mankind. And that also deals with faith. Even though I felt as if Signs did a better job in dealing with faith and the impact that faith has within us and how our constant faith in God is tested on a daily basis, I felt as if the fact that Spielberg was able to tackle that in today's time, I felt that it shows you that he still has his grasp on humanity. So that I thought was also really good. And even though it's a 2 hour and 23 minute film, it doesn't feel like that. The pacing is pretty good, in my opinion. Now, granted, I only watched this movie once. If I watch this a second time, maybe I'll notice the pacing. But when I watched it on a Friday night, I didn't notice the pacing. I felt like it was pretty well done. Now, when I left the theater, I had to really go to the bathroom really badly. But having said all that, it didn't affect my viewing experience. So, we mentioned the positives. We've talked about the positives. There are positives to this film, and I can acknowledge that the offbeat humor, the camera visual tricks, the action set pieces, soundtrack, things of that sort, also obviously were positives to this film. Now let's get into the negatives, and this is where we'll get into spoilers. So, spoiler alerts enter into this time frame to avoid being spoiled, but we'll get into spoilers for now. So, one of the issues that I had with this movie was the writing the characters. And I think that this is something that is a trend for 2026. The directing is good. The writing could be better. Easily, I feel as if there should be better script doctors. And I'm not accusing this movie of using AI. I don't think this movie used AI whatsoever. But I did feel as if the writing was definitely a glaring issue throughout this entire film. We'll start with Hugo, played by Colman Domingo. Yes, Colman Domingo did really well in this role, and he did really well as Hugo, but during this entire film, it felt as if he was just giving out exposition. And at first, you can understand it because we're setting up the rules as to what's unfolding and what's happening. But after a while, you realize, oh, like this character is just a feeder for what's to come and what we need to know at this particular moment in time. And I felt as if with this movie, the fact that you have such a star-studded cast and you're dealing with a premise that has been explored before, I don't think you really need to have that much exposition. I don't. I think with a movie that has a star-studded cast of this nature, with a plot that is quite easy to follow, you don't need to convolute it with that much more exposition, right? We don't need it. The reason as to why Signs did so well in the box office and why it's still such a beloved film to this day is because it was a rather simple movie that was accessible. And I felt as if Shyamalan understood that through his use of aliens, through his use of faith, and the idea of these ragtag team of individuals who are a family are able to combat and thwart off these aliens. Now, granted, the ending could have been better. Obviously, water, not necessarily the best way to document or showcase or highlight the weaknesses of these aliens, but I felt as if Shyamalan understood the accessibility of dealing with a film of that nature. Similarly, I wished Spielberg would understand that as well. Again, I didn't hate this movie, but I wanted this movie to feel much more accessible. It felt as if it was trying to overly convolute itself to the point where it just wasn't necessary. Now, we mentioned that this movie or that this review will have spoilers. So towards the near end of this film, they are essentially searching for the MacGuffin of this particular thing, right? This thing contains secrets of the government and stuff of this nature. And while we're trying to get this MacGuffin, we are essentially throwing logic out of the window. So the entire third act is about that, essentially, about trying to undocument these secrets, discover these secrets, and put it out to the public, to the general viewing public. And towards the near end of this film, it felt as if logic was being thrown out. And that's putting it lightly. So Margaret Fairchild and Daniel Kellner retreat back to Hugo's sound studio. Throughout this entire film, it's sort of indicated that Hugo's base is at this sound studio. So they go into the sound studio, and when they go there, they'll see that they essentially recreated Margaret Fairchild's home from scratch. Now, how is that possible? Right? For those that have watched the movie, I assume if you've gone to this point in the video, you have watched the movie, you've seen it. How are they able to do that? Right? That is a question that I think deserves some answer, right? How are they able to do that besides movie magic? How are they able to get out of Hugo's studio as well? That's also a question that needs to be asked, because when they're in the studio, the government agency led by Colin Firth's character, Noah Scanlon, are able to discover that they're there, right? Noah Scanlon has the ability to essentially go into people's bodies and undocument and uncover where their location is at. It happened to Daniel Kellner's girlfriend, and it certainly happened in that moment as well. They're backed into a wall, and through the use of this device, they're able to make themselves invisible, sneak out in a fire truck, and get to the local news agency in time to air these extraterrestrial videotapes that they have. Now, how are they able to get out of that sound studio besides movie magic, right? I think that is also another question that should be asked. And again, I understand that this is movies, right? This is a make-believe. right? Suspend your disbelief for just a second. And I'm willing to let a lot of things slide in movies, but that was just one of those examples where I felt as if that was a question that should be asked, right? There, as a critic or as a person that discusses films, it's easy to nitpick, but when it's that glaringly obvious that you have to question it, you have to ask those questions. You have to critique it. So that was also a question that I had in regards to that particular moment in the film. And another question that I had was, throughout this entire film, it felt as if the powers of Margaret Fairchild's device, it just wasn't explored, or it wasn't, better way of describing it, it just wasn't able to be established early on. We don't know the actual powers of Margaret Fairchild's device until we actually see it happen in real time. And I wanted there to be rules established with that device, because if we're just able to go along with whatever the device does, then there are really no boundaries and there are no rules attached to it, which essentially makes it that much more powerful and things just happen as a result of it. I just wanted there to be more establishment of what was happening at that time. And finally, when it came to criticism of this movie, the CGI work in this movie was really bad. Like, the animals were really bad. Again, this is a constant theme with movies in 2026. The writing and the CGI of movies nowadays. And maybe this started back with Gladiator 2, with the monkeys with the apes back in Gladiator 2. But it is something that it needs to be discussed, because the CGI of these animals, when we see a glimpse of Margaret Fairchild and how she was essentially duped by these aliens and how they were doing illegal experiments by these aliens, it is the aliens look good. The CGI of the aliens look good, but the animals themselves look really bad. And I just felt as if that could have been tweaked better in terms of the execution. So those were my criticisms for the movie. In terms of the actual disclosure day, I don't mind them leading up to the point of disclosure day, but I felt as if for a movie that had disclosure day as the title, I wanted the movie to essentially be an action adventure film that handled disclosure day of aliens run amok. And maybe it would have been similar to War of the Worlds, but I wouldn't necessarily begrudge Spielberg for making War of the Worlds Part 2, honestly. I wouldn't begrudge him for doing that, to be quite frank with you. I would have loved to seen that movie in 2026 form. Because, again, the action set pieces were, in my opinion, the standouts for this movie. And I felt as if we had more of that in the movie, it would have been a lot better, in my opinion. Now, that's not to say that this movie, fell out for me. Again, I didn't mind what was happening in terms of the lead up to the undocumentation of these aliens, but I just wanted that film. I just wanted Disclosure Day to have more of those scenes of the train sequence, as well as, say, the scene in which he gets out in the nick of time driving a Dodge Charger, So those were some of the issues that I had for this film. Now, in terms of the overall message of this film, it's very, I wouldn't say kumbaya, and I wouldn't say it's overly preachy, but I would say that I admire Spielberg's glass half full outlook on life. I deeply appreciate that because I feel like if this were to happen in today's time, right? If, let's say, extraterrestrial life, and maybe I'm thinking too much deeply into this film, but I do feel as if these conversations are kind of needed. And honestly, I feel as if Spielberg wants to have these conversations with the general audience. I feel as if this were to happen today, where we see extraterrestrial life make its way into today's world, I feel as if the average person, generally speaking, wouldn't necessarily mind it. Reason being is because this government, regardless of what government you're in, right? American government, non-American government, doesn't matter. There's already so much corruption, and there's already so much that is being uncovered that at this point we've kind of been normalized to the fact that there is extraterrestrial life. And with so much that's going on in this government and what's currently happening all around us, and in fact, I think people would welcome it. And in fact, I think people would be fine with it. They're like, yeah, let's have this happen, right? Like, we are so out of it as people. There is no sort of social cohesion whatsoever. Everyone feels so fragmented. If there was anything that happened to bring people together, why not do it? So I just don't think that the fear of extraterrestrial life is there anymore. I just don't think so. So I don't know. I think that these questions are needed when you have a film of this nature, and I feel as if Spielberg really wants to have that conversation of the possibility of extraterrestrial life, and what role does the media have, and what role does the media play when it comes to its right to show what the government is doing when it comes to blocking these crucial pieces of information. Which does beg another question, right? Obviously, this movie does play into the ideas of mass media and the role that journalists play in terms of undocumenting and uncovering these secrets. But again, when we're talking about corporate media, because let's face it, we live in a corporate media apparatus that refuses to uncover more about the Epstein files and what our government is doing, does this film feel as if it's not acknowledging that corporate media in and of itself is corporate by nature, and that they will never uncover anything that would put their own government at its own expense? I think that is a legitimate question to have, right? I think that this film really tries to give leeway to the idea that media will do its job by uncovering secrets and uncovering unreleased footage and doing its part to show the public what the government is doing. And to an extent, I think that that is needed and wanted. But I feel with what's currently happening and how our government is at its most corrupt and it's at its most pedophilic, I just feel as if they would just simply not acknowledge that. Just like that they're not acknowledging it right now, to this day. And it feels as if it's been a collaborative effort amongst these corporations to not detail any more information in regards to what's happening, not just with the guy who's in the White House right now, but with leaders throughout all parts of this world.
Paid Donald Trump a $16 million settlement over his 60 Minutes lawsuit. As someone who has always been a proud employee of this network, I am offended. And I don't know if anything will ever repair my trust in this company. But just taking a stab at it, I'd say $16 million would help.
And I feel as if Spielberg, even though, as I mentioned before, he's a glass half full kind of guy, I can definitely tell that he has a very optimistic outlook on society. I feel as if that isn't necessarily being taken into consideration. Obviously, I want to be optimistic as well, but it's hard to be optimistic when this information is out and about, where our government is being run by, the pedos, and our ruling class is filled with them, and how we as a society continue to file our taxes and to fund these wars and to fund these people that we know in our heart of hearts are just morally corrupt. But I digress. I mean, I think I've exceeded the limits for this discussion. I mean, obviously, it is a film that is meant for the general movie-going audience, so these sort of themes and ideas probably won't get brought up in discussions of this sort. So again, it's a fine movie. There are admirable parts to it. Will this get nominated for Oscars? Probably so, because it is attached to Spielberg. It is funny how at one point in time Spielberg was such a black eye on the Academy that they just refused to acknowledge him. And then all of a sudden movies like Schindler's List came out and Saving Private Ryan came out. And then all of a sudden these very same Academy voters then started to nominate him for awards. So it really goes to show you that, if anything, the Oscars are an indication that they have caught up to you instead of you being caught up to them. So I know I'm going all over with this discussion, and I'm very sorry about that. But I will say, final thoughts, wrapping up my thoughts on this movie, it's fine. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I would advise you to watch this with a packed crowd because it will definitely enhance your movie-going experience. Watch this with a couple of your friends, especially those that are familiar with Spielberg's past work, because I think that does really add another realm to the movie. But I feel as if you want to see movies that document extraterrestrial life better, I would definitely recommend Signs, and even Spielberg's past work such as Close Encounters of the Third Kind, as well as E.T. and War of the Worlds.
You behaved this way before.
I know.
Have you ever felt this way before?
Those are my thoughts on the movie. If you have any thoughts, opinions, or just your overall feedback on movies of this sort, let me know. The bookshop has been updated with Lydia Millet's The Children's Bible, based off of Jesselnick's book club recommendation, his recent recommendation on his book club for the month of June. Read it, very similar to Lord of the Flies. Definitely give it a read, give it a listen. I mean, read more than listening to the audiobook, but read it if you can. I don't know what movie I'll discuss next. Maybe it's a Blast from the Past. I don't know. I know I promised a Blast from the Past last week. That did not come to fruition. My apologies on that. But maybe next week, Blast from the Past. We don't know. Maybe it's Signs. We don't know. But yes, Blast from the Past next week. And until then, I'll see you guys on this channel. Peace.